This is episode 357 and the Earth Day edition of 3 Point Podcast presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Check out the new Wellness Eats Cafe. They have a variety of balanced meals made from fresh, wholesome ingredients, open Monday through Friday. So the salad part went down, but they've added now a Wellness Eats Cafe. Congrats to them. Looking forward to trying that out. We're also brought to you in part by AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, and Nelson House Funeral Homes. Well, playing a little catch up, I told you guys I had spring break part 2. We had Easter in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, home of the cherry blossoms. They were out in full force. Beautiful for sure. But I had a great time with the other 2 granddaughters out there. Bailey is the youngest one. I got to say this, guys, out of the 4 granddaughters, I finally have one who favors me over grandma at the moment. Okay. It's always, she wakes up in the morning, where Papa? Where Papa? You know, and when we come to their front door, does she go running to grandma? No, she goes running to grandpa. So it's a good thing. Like I said, it might be short-lived, but a little victory for grandpa.
It's funny. I thought you were going to say, and I know you wouldn't say this publicly, I thought you were going to say that you have a favorite.
Oh, no, can't do that.
No, can't do that. It is funny you say that because, when we FaceTime my parents, my daughter, she's 9. So older, obviously, wants to talk to both of them. But right. Wesley, my son, immediately, my mom is usually the one that answers. So it's usually Mimi right away. I'm saying immediately when the phone picks up, he says, "Where's Papa? Where's Papa?" And he does the same thing when my wife FaceTimes her parents and stuff. Right. He wants to see Papa or Grandpa or whoever. So maybe it's I don't know, maybe there's something to that. Papas usually sometimes have a little more of the fun of throwing them on the couch or that kind of fun. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I had a little extra pep in my step when you hear that. It's come see Papa, Bailey. But yeah, we had a nice little visit, and it's always fun to go out there and see what's going on in the Washington D.C. area.
Yeah, the cherry blossoms, I know you said it, but this is usually the time it's full bloom, right?
The cherry blossom trees.
Yeah. I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, all the blossoms are out. They have a big festival called the Cherry Blossom Parade. We didn't get to that. I think we missed the date on that. And we also, when you have little kids, you got to go through a whole Easter egg hunt thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have the opportunity to do that, man. I was working on Sunday. This is sometimes I have nothing to talk about on the podcast, and something happens, and then I'm like, oh, well, I guess there's my story for the week. So I'm not even kidding you. This is going to sound like a lie. It's kind of surreal to even think about. This happened last night at midnight. We're recording at 8:30 a.m. today. So we're sitting here watching a Black Mirror episode, which just came out, new season. Maybe we'll talk about that on Entertainment either this week or next week. We're sitting here watching. I just got out of work from the Pistons playoff game. And my girlfriend all of a sudden goes up to the window and sees smoke going past our window. And she looks out. So they just recently laid down mulch, brand new mulch at our apartment complex. And If you guys didn't know, I think maybe most people do. Mulch can spontaneously combust.
Yeah.
And so we look out, and I'm not kidding you. I have a video. Maybe I could send it. We'll post it on 3 Point Pod. Literally, a fire is starting right under the banister outside of my window. And she points it out, literally, a fire is about to wipe out our apartment here. So we start an assembly line, we're firefighters, where I start filling up water, relaying it to her. She dumps it on this mulch. By the time, it was literally right underneath the banister. So I'm watching this, and there's bushes right around. This mulch hasn't rained in a week here, and this mulch has been cooking in the sun. I'm thinking, dude, this could go up in flames at any second. So we're dumping water on it. Finally, it goes out, where we finally relax, finally are going to bed. Look back out the window again. The mulch is on fire again. It's about to catch a fire again. So go back and do it all again. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's a good scene in The Office. I was trying to remember when exactly it happens, where Kevin Malone does something heroic and he goes, "I am a hero." That's kind of how I felt. I saved an entire complex's belongings, maybe some lives in the process. And I don't know, guys. I mean, maybe I should have been a firefighter in a past life, because I literally was the hero that this place deserved, man. Maybe they don't know it yet. Nobody knew my services, and nobody knew my girlfriend's services as we did this relay of the water from the pots and pans to get this thing out. But
the bucket brigade.
I'm not kidding. It's a legit fire. Like if we would have ignored it for another 5 minutes, like it probably would have caught this place on fire.
It probably would have. I mean, that's no joke. I mean, you maybe learned a little bit in your time at Crooked Tree doing some landscaping, but I remember learning about that, and that you don't pile up the mulch too high or like too thick, because that's what can happen when the stuff starts to decompose. I feel like it was called like heat buildup or something. I think that's what it was referred to. But right, especially in the sun and the heat. And it's funny you say that. Yesterday we were driving, running some errands, and we saw some mulch smoking. There was like an area of trees with like piles of mulch around the trees and where we were driving. And one of them, there was like smoke billowing out. And at first we were like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I was like, I bet you that's the mulch. It's starting to combust a little bit. And you do have to be careful if you just pile it up too thick. If you wanted to go out there, the main thing, you just got to spread it out. I don't know if it's already literally on fire, you're not about to do that. But
that's what I was so confused by, because one, it's nighttime. Two, it's been a little hotter here, but it hasn't been like 100 degrees. Maybe it's been 60 or 70, and it was nighttime. So it almost made me wonder: was somebody dropping a cigarette? It made no sense to me how it was catching on fire like that, man.
Well, I'm an old guy. This is the first I've ever heard of this. So thanks for the information. And it almost makes me wonder, is this your way of kind of putting the thing in my brain that you don't want to come and do the mulch at my house? Is that what this is all about?
I was actually wondering, is that this weekend or is that next weekend? When are we doing that?
Well, it's supposed to be this weekend, but it's dependent on your schedule, so it's not a major rush. Okay,
I'm good to do it this weekend.
But now I know the story. Now I know. Okay, don't spread mulch, Uncle Ted. It's going to catch on fire. I actually never heard that before, ever.
Well, you don't want to spread it.
No, it's thick. When I was at Crooked Tree one time, we left like a big old pile of mulch. Came back, it was like burned to rubble.
Wow,
what the fuck happened here? It literally melted. That's what happens if you get in a hot stretch.
I'm pretty sure there's like a science behind it, because mulch decomposes, and it's in the decomposition process that I think it's called heat buildup, that it just starts to combust basically. So yeah, maybe the heat, like you said, it hasn't been super hot. Like it's been in the 90s the last few days down here. So that's why I assumed the heat made it do this. But like you said, by your apartment, maybe it wasn't specifically the heat, because you're talking about it being at night. So crazy though, but you'll have to give us an update on the mulch spreading. Yeah. So do you make Jared actually like carry the bags out of the truck and do everything, or?
I might do the bags out of the truck, but I can't bend over to spread it anymore. You know what I mean?
That's one thing. That's a young man's job right there. Spreading mulch. I mean, that's shoveling snow and some of those kind of like jobs. I mean, it just like you're just working on your back doing those kind of things. So
and it's not like calling in a family favor either. I'm hiring him. Let's put it that way.
With a pontoon ride,
family discount.
Family discount
with a pontoon ride and some grilled hot dogs.
There you go. Yeah, the old days of pizza, they're out the door.
Right. One other thing that happened, and it's not even much of a story. It was more so just a funny coincidence. So you guys know I just came back from Scottsdale. I was depressed. I had a great time out there. So I'm out in Royal Oak this past weekend. I don't even know what the place is called. Some piano bar, which is pretty sweet, by the way. It's like 3-story piano bar. So I'm just sitting there at the bar, right in the pocket, having a good night. I look to my right. It's like, wait, I recognize this guy. I go, that's Matt Ishbia. Ishbia's here. He's got he's got his whole entourage around him. Like I said, I'm feeling it. So I'm like, I'm gonna talk to this guy. I start talking to him for maybe 20 seconds. I'm like, hey, I kind of mocked him a little bit. I go, yeah, hey, tough year for you guys this year for the Suns, but you guys will get them next year. I think we got to chuckle out of them. What's funny is I mentioned this interaction to my brother, and he goes, "Man, you should have mentioned Stephen A. Smith, because this is right when Stephen A. Smith had the comment about him being like the worst owner in sports."
Right.
So I go, "Dude, I was just in Scottsdale. I want to go out there. Let me work for you, dude. I'll make you some money. I'll work for the TV there out there in Scottsdale." He goes, "All right, I'll see what I can do." And then I go to like make the next move to like try to get a number or email or a contact or something, and he's already out, and his whole entourage is out. So I missed my moment to make that plunge out to Arizona, man. It's stuck here for good. Again, not really much of a story. It was just a funny 30-second interaction in my brain.
Hey, you just interacted with an absolute billionaire, I
Right.
mean, that's pretty cool. And he's still chilling in Royal Oak. That's cool that he still
Oh,
comes
he's got
back
like
to
a
his
compound out here, man. Yeah, it's
yeah.
awesome.
And a
Yeah, that
college basketball national champion, right?
he is. Yep. He was on the Flintstones team, which is kind of wild. That's his claim to fame. I was gonna say that, like along those lines. If you would have led with, it would have been a lie, I know. But like if you would have led with, you went to Michigan State, I bet he would have offered you a job. Because he's
Yeah.
talked about he hooks up former players,
Mateen and yeah.
Mateen, and Draymond and him have some business connections and stuff. So yeah, if you would have been like, oh yeah, I'm class of
Right.
2016 MSU or whatever, I'll work for you. He probably would have gave you a business card and been like, yeah, hit me up. But,
Well, what he liked is I glazed him first. Like I go, because he did this whole thing like when he hired the Suns, where he put the Suns on local cable TV for free.
Right.
And I mean, it's kind of killing my business, but I still think it's awesome they did that. So I said,
yeah.
dude, I really appreciate what you did, put that stuff on TV. So at least it opened him up a little bit. And then I gave him the kind of joking line that they're going to get him next year. And that got a laugh. But yeah, it's amazing that he's still out here doing that. I mean, that's one of the richest, 50 people in the world, maybe even more,
Right.
top 30 in the world. I don't know. He's up there.
Something like
He's
that.
right there. Yeah.
But yeah, I blew my shot. I had some wit. I could have been a little quicker witted to really knock his socks off. Maybe I'd be somewhere else in life right now at this point, 4 days removed. But no, that's it. Back to work.
Back to work.
Hey, 20 seconds or so. That's not that bad. It's a,
Let's just
it's
say
a
he's
step.
a little preoccupied with people maybe a little better looking than I was. So I don't think he cared too much about what I had to say.
If you would have pulled out the 3-point podcast business card, maybe we'd have him on in a week or two, though.
Yeah, that's always the mission for sure. Good stuff there. Well, I want to thank our other great partners. They include Rivals, Taphouse, and Grille, Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan, and also Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. By the way, kind of start a new tradition. They're our sponsor of the week. Unlock your dream home by getting pre-approved. Jim Woodworth and his knowledgeable, friendly team can help you with any mortgage questions. Check them out online at successgroupmortgage.com. Well, we should have a fun podcast here. Obviously, we'll talk sports, but we'll also have a special entertainment segment with filmmakers Anthony Hornus and DJ Perry, who have a new movie opening, Harsens Island Revenge, premiering this week. We'll get into some sports, though. Pistons and Tigers, and oh my, it's going to be a lot of fun as we hit into April here and head towards May. But we'll be right back right after this. All right, guys. Talking sports, Pistons. We were a little bit leery after game one, I think, but they showed the kind of team they are coming back in game two and now have the home court advantage. Let's see if they can hold on to it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was leery on after game one was if, the Knicks went on a 21-0 run, basically, to steal that game. The Pistons outplayed them the whole game, basically, except for that 21-0 run. The only thing I was leery on was if it was going to be so deflating for a Pistons team that is really young, their first, big experience in the playoffs for most of the players. I just wondered if that was going to basically knock them out, be like, man, we can't bounce back from this. And they did in game two. They basically, I think the Knicks only led twice in that whole game, early in the game and then once towards the end. And the Pistons basically controlled that whole game. Yeah. Even the series 1-1. And like you said, now they have home court advantage, 2 games in Detroit. And then it flip-flops for if it goes past that. But no, I mean, the Pistons, to me, I mean, we said it before the series started, and I still am going to stick to it. I think they're the better team than the Knicks. The Knicks obviously are the higher seed. Jalen Brunson is really good, and they have a couple other really good players in Towns and Bridges. But I think when Cade is playing like he did in game 2 and the role players stepped up, it'll be nice if Beasley and Hardaway play better because they were not playing well at all in game 2. But Dennis Schroeder and Tobias Harris stepped up in game 2. So when Cade plays that way and a couple, 2-3 role players step up and do their thing, I think the Pistons can definitely win this series. But it's a long series, of course. So we'll see.
It's awesome seeing the swings of a playoff. You forget it every year. I mean, after game 1, we were like, I think we all kind of were thinking, wow, we got A+ contributions from Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, and Cade maybe didn't have his best game. Stu got hurt. Stu was out. Maybe the rest of the series, we'll see. to me, I was like, I got a bad feeling about this. Honestly, I thought they were going to get drubbed in game 2. They showed me a lot, man. I think they showed us all a lot. Like this, they showed a nationwide audience. This team is legit. Cade is what, top 15, top 10 player in the league? Like
without doubt.
We could be debated. And if he keeps playing this way, it's going to keep going up. What an awesome environment in Madison Square Garden. This, in terms of environments, we're going to be at Detroit, where the crowd's going to be on fire on Thursday and on Sunday, and the other games are going to be at Madison Square Garden. Like this is what you ask for in NBA playoffs, is these two teams, these two fan bases. It's been a lot of fun. But to me, the big story of game 2, which I think is hilarious, I love Jalen Brunson. I really do. There's the foul baiting thing that people really do not like. To me,
I
it
don't
was
like
cracking
it.
me up watching him, because it was
Well,
frustrating.
you're
to be a
also
rookie,
you're Jared.
What?
You're also a James Harden fan, so I can see it. I can see
Similar.
When Trae Young does it, it irritates me. But for whatever reason, Brunson, I like appreciate it. I think it's hilarious. You got Asar Thompson, a second-year player, first playoff series, obviously still pretty green around the gills. I don't even know if he's 20 yet. And it was just Brunson kind of taking him to school, just veteran plays, drawing these fouls. He's mocking him with putting up the 6 when Asar Thompson fouled out, putting up the 3 when Tobias Harris fouled him like a couple plays later. I loved it. You can tell that it's getting chippy in this rivalry, and it's cool to see Brunson and Cade go at. I mean, these are two guys at the top of their craft. I love both of them, two of my favorite players. So I'm just appreciating it. I'm getting the popcorn out. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for game 3. It should be an awesome, awesome crowd. And I mean, you can't give enough credit to Tobias Harris. Yeah. Think about, I said it at the time, Joel Embiid, the biggest loser there is in the NBA. How many scapegoats could they find on that damn 76ers organization? Before it comes down to, dude, you're just not that guy. Yeah. You're somehow an MVP. I really don't know how. Tobias Harris is playing amazing in these 2 games, man. Dennis Schroeder, biggest shot maybe of the entire playoffs so far. Pretty cool to see this team really mesh and come together. I mean, Trajan Langdon, here's the thing that I think Troy Weaver maybe didn't understand as a GM. He drafted well, and a lot of these players are Troy Weaver's draft picks. Right. But Trajan Langdon's been working year-round, adding players at the deadline, making trades in the offseason. I mean, Schroeder – other teams maybe would have just stayed pat. Adding Schroeder was a big-time advantage. I mean, it just won us a playoff game, our first playoff game in 15 years, because we signed that guy at the deadline. So just awesome to see them coming together. They truly do play for each other. And I was just surprised to see them pick up without Isaiah Stewart out there. So I think they can win the series, man. And
you got to give a lot of credit to Bickerstaff too. I mean, game one kind of ended like we were worried. I mean, that they'd play tough, they'd play good, but then falter at the end because of the experience of the Knicks, especially Brunson, right? Yeah. Then they had, it was almost the identical replay in game 2, other than the fact that they were able to close it out at the end. Cade had a phenomenal game. Just the way that he plays his players, they all seem to believe in each other. Like you said, they won that game without Beef Stew. And who knows what will happen now? But Bickerstaff, what a huge improvement on the coaching sidelines for the Pistons, and maybe his assistants as well. I looked over at the sideline. Looks like they have about 12 assistants sitting there on the bench.
And you got Luke Walton, former head coach, Jarrett Jack. Played with Chris Paul. That was my guy, so I know all about Jarrett Jack. So yeah, it's a good staff he's got.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, like you said. I mean. Sidney Lowe, I mean, he former player. Luke Walton, I mean, his head coaching tenure wasn't great, but he was a former head coach. Jarrett Jack, I mean, you got a bunch of assistants over there that obviously have their specific roles. No, it's a night and day difference between Monty Williams and then JB Bickerstaff. It's not a shot at Monty Williams, but it kind of is actually. But no, I mean, this team, they made the right moves. Trajan Langdon is, I mean, he built just such a all around very good roster. Are they going to win not the national title? Are they going to win the NBA championship? Probably not. But I definitely think not this year. I mean, they definitely can upset the Knicks. If they get past that, you see how it goes and you see what the matchups are. But to go from 14 wins to where they are now, I mean, it's an incredible improvement.
Well, what I like is it's kind of a stepping stone the way it is supposed to be, showing signs of improvement every year. I mean, how do you improve on what they did in this last calendar year? It's amazing. But now that they've stamped themselves as, looks like they'll be a perennial playoff team anyway for the next half decade or so, and keep adding to the puzzle with maybe a good draft choice here and there, maybe a free agent signing.
Yeah.
Things are looking good in Motown for the
It's
Pistons.
really seeming like Booker is heavily considering like
Is he?
Detroit in free agency. I'm not sure exactly when his contract up. It's either this year or next year.
Right.
Probably next year, I think. So that, I mean, that's that final piece to push for a title, right?
Right.
If these guys keep developing, Jaden Ivey, we've still forgetting that Jaden Ivey, lottery pick who was playing well this year, has been out. So it's very exciting, man. And I just can't get enough of this series. It's a sports fan dream. This is what the playoffs are about. It just feels bigger in Madison Square Garden, and it's going to feel big in Detroit. It's such a huge deal. But you got Timothy Chalamet, Ben Stiller, all the great Knicks of the past, Stephon Marbury, Patrick Ewing, all those guys. I just get a kick out of it. And New York really does have the best fans when it comes to basketball. And it was just really cool to see this young team. It almost looked like they were going to falter like they did in game one for a minute there. And then a veteran like Schroeder gets it done. I love Schroeder. I feel like some people don't. My dad, for whatever reason, doesn't like him. I remember
I like him.
He was like, "Why? Yeah, I didn't get that signing." I'm like, dude, I love Schroeder. Yeah. The FIBA stars like him, who was the starting point guard for Germany. I get a kick out of these guys. So it's just a really, really fun squad. And that's and at the end of the day, like you see it on a national audience. Like people talk about Cade Cunningham. It's like he's just got like a clean game. He's not foul baiting like Brunson does. This team has fun. They're good on social media. They're smiling. Malik Beasley's the ultimate showman, hitting shimmies after he hits threes. Dennis Schroeder, great celebration after a big time three. Like it's just everything about him, man, is just awesome. And if you're not watching them, you really do need to tune in because this is what the NBA, this is what basketball is all about. In the physicality of this series. Like you talk about Brunson, the foul baiting, dude, he's taking some punishment on this foul baiting. So it's not all for nothing, I guess, on the Pistons side. But yeah, just that's when the garden was eaten, is watching these playoff games, man.
Yeah, Schroeder was a great addition because you heard a lot about those FIBA players. They've been playing pro basketball since they were like 14 years old, and he's one of them, from Germany. So he's not scared of the moment at all. He's not scared. He's not backing down from Jalen Brunson. He's picking up Brunson full court, and he's like in his ear the whole way. He's going to talk trash. He's not going to back down, and he's not afraid of big shots like he proved in game 2. And that's what's big is because Cade is obviously the guy. He is the guy for the Pistons. But, like, they needed another guy that, like, if Cade is getting double teamed or if Cade is maybe having an off night, who's going to go get that bucket? Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hart, these guys are good, but they're not necessarily, like, go get you a bucket type of guy. And Schroeder kind of can do that.
Right.
So, yeah, he was just a fantastic pickup. You said you love New York Knicks fans. They are great fans. They were probably living up in New England and Connecticut for 5 years. They were probably the most annoying fans up there because they're the most delusional fans of any pro sports teams. I think they haven't won a title since 1973, only 2 titles altogether for the New York Knicks. And they act like they're like the Spurs or something, or they're on like a Warriors dynasty run.
Bulls
I mean,
or
the Pistons have 3 titles, and the Knicks haven't been to a conference championship since 2000. So I get it. They are great fans. They're a great, great fan base, but it's like, you pump your brakes a little bit. You guys aren't like the Bulls of the 90s,
Well, it's concerning, man. I look at their team. It's like I thought they made a good acquisition this offseason with Cat. He was kind of a no-show in game 2. He played amazing in game 1, kind of somewhat of a no-show in my opinion in game 2. And you look up and down the roster, it's like all these guys that you hear their names thrown out on like Twitter or something, like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Brunson, Cat. But then when you actually just look at the Pistons roster, guys like Asar Thompson, who you don't hear about, guys like Malik Beasley, who maybe were tossed in the trash a couple years ago. It's like, no, these guys are at the top of their games right now. And maybe they're not the big names that an OG Anunoby is, if he quote unquote big name, but it's like they're flat out just better basketball players.
Right.
And when you look at the tail of the tape and who's better, who's this, who's that, it's like, I don't know, man. If you at the start of the series, people were like, oh, Pistons have one of the 5 best players in the series. I don't know if you can say that after what we've seen the first 2 games. I mean, we got some budding stars, I think. And Malik Beasley right now, this way he's been playing, especially game 1, like as good a 3-point shooter as anybody in the league. We know that.
Well, Cade's my favorite, but I tell you what, Thompson's not too far behind him. I love the way that kid plays, man. I don't know if he's a hybrid between Dennis Rodman and Tayshaun Prince, but he is electric at times. He really is. He's going to get nothing but better. And by the way, since you name dropped some of the stars that were there for Craig, I'll throw out the Jonas Brothers were there too.
Yep, they were.
Yeah.
I got one final comment on the Pistons. This is kind of a shout out to FanDuel. I mean, I was in DC for game 1, so I saw the NBA A team with, Breen, Doris, and Jefferson. They're good, no doubt about it. But last night, no way. I'm watching Blaha and Kelser. It was awesome. It's awesome hearing those guys do a Pistons playoff game. Yeah. Underrated, I think, maybe not necessarily nationally, but the combination of Blaha and Kelser, and then Johnny was there on the sideline. I mean, that was a nice production last night.
Yeah. They do a good job, man. I'm just lucky to have a small part in it. You think about George Blaha. George Blaha has been calling Pistons basketball 50 years. He's seen it all, man. He's literally seen them from the when they were at the Silverdome to now they're at LCA. He's been through 3 arenas. I mean, think about that. I think I saw some deal where basically the regional sports networks aren't going to be able to do first round playoff games next year. So cherish it. I mean, what a way to go out for those guys if they never get another chance to do a playoff series. I mean, New York Knicks, Detroit Pistons with this magical 30-game turnaround. I mean,
it's awesome.
A lot of storylines and it's good theater. So it's pretty cool to see it play out that way.
Yeah. NBA is going to be different next year for NBA fans out there. No more Inside the NBA on TNT, games on Amazon Prime. ESPN's package is smaller. I mean, these rights deals are getting a little crazy, as you know about at FanDuel Sports.
Right. Well, speaking of FanDuel Sports, that's the home of the Detroit Tigers. Now 14-9, one of the best records in the major leagues. San Diego's in town, kind of a repeat of 1984 in the World Series. They beat the Padres Monday night. Again, I mean, we continue to talk about the Tigers. Exciting to watch this team play, and I got a feeling this year they're going to draw a whole heck of a lot of fans down there at Comerica, especially once the weather officially breaks.
You got to appreciate Baez, right? I know it's not maybe the headline of this team, obviously, but
you
railroaded him a few times. You got to appreciate that he's playing in center field now. He's playing third base, shortstop. His batting average is up in the 280s. I mean, you got to appreciate what he's doing so far, right?
Right. Yeah. Can't argue.
Yeah. I mean, like you kind of said it, Ted, as Jared was talking. Torkelson is probably for Tigers fans the story, his resurgence. But Casey Mize has to be up there too because he was a number 1 pick,
awesome,
and he's been incredible. I mean, he's honestly looking like Skubal obviously is the ace, but Casey Mize could be right behind him the way that he's pitching right now. I mean, the whole staff altogether. I mean, everything right now is clicking. They're still top 10 in batting average, still top 10 in hits, still top 10 in runs scored, which, last year on that little playoff run that they made, I mean, it was fun watching that, but their offense, we talked about it, their offense was still not very good last year. They were getting by on, small ball type plays, good pitching and stuff, but their offense still wasn't good. Now their offense is there. Offense is there, pitching is there. So, I mean, it's a long season. We're April 22nd right now. The season still goes for the next 5 months, basically, So it's a long season. You got to get healthy. But that's the thing. They should be getting some guys back, Parker Meadows and some other guys back. So in theory, that should help. No, I mean, right now they're tied for the best league in the AL. And, I mean, that's what you want. You don't want to be buried this early in the season. You don't want to be in last place in the AL where, now the fans are checked out. Fans are going to be checked in, which only helps the team and, may help at the trade deadline and stuff like that. So, no, this team right now, there's no reason to think that they're not legitimate contenders.
And with Torkelson, it's like, I mean, some people are like, oh, well, let's see it for a whole season. It's like, that's fair. I mean, I don't think he's going to have 1,000 OPS all season. If he does, he's going to be in the freaking MVP running with the way he's playing right now. But he's given us contributions when, like you said, we're not at full strength. I mean, Matt Vierling still isn't back. Parker Meadows still isn't back. Wenzel Perez, who's maybe my favorite player, he's still not back.
Right.
Kerry Carpenter maybe just tweaked something. Maybe he's going to be out for a little bit. Jake Rogers is out. So the fact that they're doing this and they're keeping their head above water, like you said, that's what the name of the game is. Don't go on a 5-game losing streak. Stick right around 500, maybe 4 or 5 games above 500 like they are. And get to the end of the season and win your division. So it's pretty exciting in the way that they've picked up the pieces. That's AJ Hinch, that's Chris Fetter, obviously, as well. But the way they picked up the pieces without some of these key guys has been impressive.
Well, I'll definitely be doing a handful of games down there for sure this season, and maybe try to get to a playoff game if they can make it this year.
With that media credential, right?
No, they'll shut me down on that. I got shut down on the playoffs last year. I'll be able to go to all the regular season games I want to, though.
They've got your email. They've got your email flagged. If this guy reaches out for a media credential,
yeah. I don't think 92.5 or 3-point podcast carries a lot of weight when the big time media gets in there. One final thing off the Tigers before we move to our special entertainment tonight. Lee Corso, 89, one more game day. That's clutch, man. That's totally fitting. I love it.
it's the way he has to do one more show. And I mean, we've all been watching Game Day for the last few years. I mean, with his age and his health struggles, it hasn't. He's not the same guy he was, in the prime of his career there on College Game Day. But he is College Game Day. I mean,
yes.
He's there the whole time. Chris Fowler, Reese Davis, they've had a couple hosts. Herbie's been there a long time. They've had some other guys come in as far as like the analysts, but Lee Corso is the guy with his headgear pick and his analysis and everything. And man, when he announced he's going to retire, you saw the love that he got on social media. I mean, that just goes to show how big of an impact he's had. So that show that, the first week of College Game Day this fall, I mean, they're not going to make the whole show about Lee, but there's going to be some very big parts that are about him. Man, there's going to be some tears flowing, and there's going to be some cool. I can't imagine being an editor or a PA or whatever working on those features that they're going to do for Corso. It's going to be cool.
It is. Yeah, at least they got a long enough runway at least, where they got basically this summer to get ready for it. Because I was thinking that as well. Like, there's going to be 5 different tiered. Herbie's gonna voice a piece. Maybe Reese is gonna voice a piece. Maybe Chris Fowler. Maybe they'll bring him back. He'll voice it's gonna be like 10 different things that are gonna make you cry. That day. They did it. They're doing it right. I like how they're doing it. Where it's week 1. It's not a whole farewell tour for an entire season. It's week 1, which is the best College Game Day of the year. That first week when you cannot wait for college football. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be must-watch television. And like sometimes, like it is with College Game Day, once that noon kick starts, it's a little bit of a letdown. You almost wish you were still watching Game Day.
Right.
So whoever he picks on his last headgear, I mean, put the farm on it. Right. There's just something going to be magical about whoever he picks, and you got to ride them, whatever that team is. Do we know where they're going to be yet? Have they decided?
Ohio State, I thought I saw something.
No, they've bounced around. Florida State has a game that day, and that's where Game Day started. So they're talking about maybe they'll go to Florida State. But they haven't announced that yet.
All right. Well, good stuff. Congrats to Lee for a heck of a career and making that Game Day what it is. Let's take another short break, and we'll come back with a special Tedtertainment Tonight segment with filmmakers Tony Hornus and DJ Perry right after this. Well, we're going to talk some filmmaking with Anthony Hornus, a.k.a. Tony, who is an award-winning journalist, author, and filmmaker, and like us, a Corona Cavalier. Also joining us is fellow filmmaker Richard D.J. Perry of Collective Development. And Tony, let me start with you. How exciting is it anticipating your newest flick, Harsens Island Revenge, later this week in Alpena, where I believe most of the filming was done, right?
Yes. It's more exciting, I think, for the people up there who were involved in the area, but yes, it was filmed pretty much entirely in Presqu'Île and Alpena. Mm-hmm. I know they did some drone shooting on actual Harsens Island, but the being on the east side of the state, as is Harsens Island, it was just conducive to telling this story. So, I mean, we put you right on the St. Clair River and, where they did a lot of the bootlegging there in the Detroit River, of course, to cross to Windsor. But no, it's still exciting for me, even for an old guy.
Yeah.
I still, but we know at this point, we've been working on this film for over a year, in post-production. That's how long it takes. But yeah, we're excited.
Well, let me ask a second follow-up question to DJ. Now, this story was developed from a book written by our Owasso's own Carl Mankey, and you adapted the screenplay. Give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of a thumbnail sketch on what the movie's about.
Well, the movie is about a conflict that took place between World War I vets and the infamous Purple Gang. This all takes place during the Roaring '20s. So it's interesting because at that time, the Purple Gang controlled 80% of the illegal liquor in the United States, and their capital was out of Detroit. And it's one of those situations where Al Capone was one of their biggest buyers, and they really kept control over the legal bootlegging with an iron fist. Well, these World War I vets, a lot of them came back, and some of them had what we know as
Right.
shell shock or PTSD. And, they couldn't take all the stimulus of the city. So they either went up north of Michigan, or a lot of them that had family or businesses that had to stay close to Detroit went to Harsens Island, which was kind of a outdoor wilderness wonderland for fishing and hunting and stuff like that.
Just for reference for the viewers, that Harsens Island is about 45 minutes northeast of Detroit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so these people, they did this to kind of, live a more simpler lifestyle. But when they needed money for a boat broke down or a health issue, they would do a little bootlegging themselves, and they didn't ask any sort of permission. Well, this looked bad for the Purple Gang, and so they tried to put their thumb on these guys. And, that intimidation of the Purple Gang works really good against shopkeepers. But these guys, these vets, had seen, the first tanks, flamethrowers, mustard gas, ended up a lot of hand-to-hand fighting with trench knives in the sewage-filled trenches. And these guys didn't scare too easily at all, So you can see already where the conflict kind of is arising. And then the other side of the coin besides this action is it's a little bit of a tale about greed, and with greed, if you had, just been content being a fisherman or a guide or something like that, you would have been all right. But sometimes in life, people want to try to make that fast money. And this movie is a little bit about the consequences of what can happen. And Carl Mankey really creates nice characters in his book. And he likes to also pick kind of these historical events and write around that. And that's something we all enjoy at CDI, the historical dramas too. So that's how that kind of came about. And that's your thing in a nutshell. It's World War I vets versus the Purple Gang in the Roaring '20s.
And when you start messing with men's families, or it could be men or women, but you start messing with families, I mean, it goes from verbal and intimidation to actual physical, stuff like that. That doesn't fly with anybody,
Right.
Let alone these guys who were hunters and fishermen. They knew World War I vets. They knew how to use weapons too.
Right.
So I can offer this up to both of you guys. So when you have a book, what's the first steps, and how do you go from a book to eventually a movie? What are the steps, and how long did it take you guys to really put this entire movie together? How long did that process take?
DJ?
Well, thankfully writing is kind of a gift. I call it controlled schizophrenia because you get inside the minds of all these different characters, hopes, dreams, and fears, and their interactions with one another. Again, like I was complimenting Carl's books, he creates very rich characters, which really helps in the translation. And it took me, for a first draft, it takes me maybe 4 weeks. And that's pretty fast for a writer, actually. But I write quite often. And so, I think that I've got a little bit of a knack for that translation. But in a movie, it's more show me versus tell me.
Right.
A book has a lot more detail, a lot more dialogue and stuff like that. So you're kind of paring that down. There's certain things that are harder to capture on film, versus writing it. You can write spectacular crashes, but then when it comes to, actually filming that, you got to think about safety and cost and lots of other things. So,
And it better look really cool too, right?
Absolutely.
I can tell. Just follow up on that, Jared. everything starts with the writer. I mean, something has to be written before anything can be done usually. But I would say totally, you get a script, you get it fine-tuned to where everybody's the main producers and the writer, of course. And then you go into what's called development, and you go into the business end of it. If you don't have the business to go with the creative, you will likely fail,
Right.
But that's always been our motto. And then you go into development to what we call pre-production. And then of course it's casting, which is a lot of fun. And then you go in, with the location scouting, and all of these different things. I would say from even the time we go into pre-production or development, it's months,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then you go shoot for 5 or 6 weeks or whatever, and you come back, and it's usually a solid year. Wouldn't you agree, DJ? Before all the post is done,
A year is fast, and
Yeah.
technology's making it so the post process is
Right.
speeding up, which is
Yep.
nice. But yes, like Tony was saying, the script is your blueprint. It keeps all your departments and artists on the same page. It's where you derive your schedule from. It's where you do all your breakdowns of props and vehicles and wardrobe. And every department uses that script and pulls the information they need out of it so that they can start doing their job. And when you do a period piece, you really demand the most from your artists because they have
Right.
to be researchers as well.
Right.
yeah,
So
very
go ahead, T.
real sticklers about that.
Yep.
About the research and everything. We did a Civil War film many years ago, Wicked Spring, and we had the best of the best Civil War reenactors, and these guys were almost to the point of fanatical about buttons and everything else, which is great for the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can just tell you that between production and post-production, there were more than 200 people involved in this film. So that's quite a few for a independent company. But like
there's
DJ
so much.
saying,
You talk about how long it takes to put a movie together. I mean, I'm just thinking of my brain. Are you guys like nervous for the release? Like, hey, I hope everybody likes this, or is it we did our job, we put our best foot forward, we did our best, we'll let the chips fall where they may? What's like the feelings going into a release like this?
you can't worry about that, Jared. Like you said, you just go in, you do the best job you possibly can. I'll let DJ expound on that because he always keeps reminding us that, you've done the very best you can do. And if people don't gravitate to it, I mean, and that goes to genre as well, we've
got
done
30 years into it, and you realize you're always going to have people that throw rocks or roses, I say.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to step up on that pedestal, and that's what an artist does.
Yeah.
And, I tend to be, since I'm not as old as Tony, but, I started with the TSR-80 computer that you loaded with a tape player and everything. I worry more about the technical gremlins, I never worry about like doing this interview, but is the link going to work for me? It's sometimes, technology moves so fast. So my concerns tend to be on smaller process things. And as for the film, you put your best effort out there, and even people that have tens of millions of dollars, they still get rocks thrown at them, and one person can love it, someone else can dislike it, and sometimes it's the mood of the person.
Right.
Sometimes people dislike it and haven't seen it.
Right.
With social media today, you just can't worry about that.
Right.
Yeah. We say that often, that people are going to hate everything on social media, especially nowadays. Like one thing we've talked about, again, this is our Tedtertainment Tonight segment. So in this, we've talked about different movies and TV shows. Yeah. And one of them right now that's making headlines is the series The Last of Us on HBO, on Max. And people are ripping some of the casting because it was a video game adapted to a show. And people hate the casting for the show because they don't think that it looks like the characters in the video game. And that's the question I was going to, maybe it's more for you, DJ, but also you, Tony, because you're a film creator also. What's the challenge, kind of piggybacking off of Jared's question, what's the challenge of adapting a book? Because you know what it's like when people read a book, they see those characters and everything in their head. And then if they go and turn on that movie and they're like, nope, that's not what I was picturing when I was reading that book. I think about, I didn't read the books and I actually didn't watch the movies either, but the Harry Potter series is a big one I've heard people talk about, that the movies actually did a really good job of making the readers of the books happy because they think the movies reflect what they were reading in the books. What's the challenge in that? Do you talk to the author? Like in this case, Carl Mankey, like what were you going for in this? Or is it your vision?
No, it's the director's vision at this point. And you do go back to the reference material. It's usually not a healthy thing if you involve the writer too much.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's kind of like at a certain point, you need one creative director.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with a book, unless they're on the cover of the book or, you know, there's illustrations, you are kind of creating. Now, in the case of the Purple Gang, some of those characters are based on actual historic people. And then some of the protagonists, the other characters are people that Carl created, you know, probably representing several different people. Because, you know, you take several stories and push them together and into one concise storyline. And I'm just guessing that's what he did with the book.
Like the two hitmen that they hired, the Purple Gang hired to come in because nobody knew who they were, hadn't seen them. They're just two guys walking around and all of a sudden somebody's dead.
But it's funny that two of the characters that we cast, played by Dean Teaster and Shane Hagedorn, when you actually see the real photos of them, they're pretty similar. And it wasn't exactly planned that way, you know, other than we were basing off the source material a little bit. Right. You know, performance is what's really important on that. I mean, unless the person has a very distinguished look. And I know in this day and age, that's where, whether it's gender or nationality, you know, that sticks with people. But you're looking for the person who can embody the character, become the character, and give that performance that draws an audience in and makes them want to follow and care about that character.
Right.
So. I should tell you guys too that in the 25 years that DJ and I have been making films together, that now we can do everything absolutely from start to finish. I mean, we can send our distributor, you know, one who's on the West Coast, and now we have one theatrical distributor on the East Coast, but we can actually hand them a 1 terabyte zip drive with a movie on it.
Right.
Wow.
Back in the day, it was just such a process. You know, you're sending out stuff to be processed, you know, in New York and, you know, stuff like that. And you're sending a FedEx, you're taking a chance. But now we do everything. And our partner, Dennis Terrian, who's been with us for at least 25 years, right, DJ? Something like that.
Since film 1.
Yeah.
He just got this studio in Grand Ledge that looks like a NASA control tower, you know. I mean, he's always, I just got this today. I just got that today. But, you know, and we do our own editing, sound design, color correction, just everything. And
it's really the mastering. We used to have to use a third-party studio out of Detroit for some of the final mastering, and now with the software the way it is and everything else, and we can do everything ourselves. And I think Tony was referencing that back in the day we used to shoot on film.
Right.
And, you know, now, of course, we're in the digital age, and a lot of people, for whatever reasons, you know, they harken back to, oh, it'd be great to shoot on film. But like Tony was saying, you used to have to put your film that you had shot into the mail, hope it arrived there.
Right.
And then once it arrived, hope that they didn't, you know, the chemicals didn't mess it up when they were drying it, you know, on these big spools, that it didn't rip the negative. There was so much stuff that could go wrong that when I hear people talk about, oh, I wish we were still filming on film, I know that they're clueless.
Those 35 millimeter mags that we used to use only hold 11 minutes.
So
Right.
they would call cut in the middle, or a rollout would happen in the middle of a great take.
Yeah.
And if you look back when they used to have to deliver that to theaters, they were giant, heavy
Right.
reels that they'd have to change and stuff like that. And now, like Tony's saying, it's like a flash drive.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
you can,
amazing.
I mean, you can shoot 60, 70 hours of, 4K video to make a 2-hour movie,
Yeah.
Try that
I know.
20 years ago.
I know, Ted, you're going to jump in here. I just want my brother-in-law. He's in management for the NCG movie theater chain.
Yep.
He's been working for them for basically his whole adult life. But it's funny. He tells me like now they get their movies on flash drives.
Yep.
Oh, new movies coming out. Oh, here it is on a flash drive, and it's coded. So like if the runtime is only for like 4 months, the flash drive will only work for those 4 months. So like you can't.
Oh,
You can't use it afterwards. It's just crazy because they used to get the big spools for movies, and now in the mail he's like, "Oh, here come my new movies. Here's some flash drives."
Yeah, this flash drive will self-destruct in 4 months.
Right.
Well, let me jump in with a quick question here. It's kind of interesting because even though our podcast goes worldwide, really our primary focus is in Michigan. You're both Michigan guys. The film industry, it's kind of getting a little bit away from Hollywood and California for a number of reasons. I know Texas has become a good state for filmmaking, and it's really spread out. Where's your niche, I guess, in filmmaking? You said you do soup to nuts. You can do it all now yourselves. Is Michigan a good spot for filmmaking?
Well,
I like to tell a story that, hey, I can, why don't you live in LA or something like that? No, I've been to LA. All I want to be to LA. I can get on a plane and go anywhere to work and come home and sit on my porch and sip wine and watch cars go by, people go by. Yeah. It's wherever basically you need to go. The only thing different about LA is the huge sound studios, and we can basically create that stuff we just did on the last movie we're cutting. We can recreate that stuff in a studio. Another studio, we started working with John and Eldon McGraw, who have this huge studio in Lansing with gigantic LED screens and all that kind of stuff. So I just think you have to go where the film, the gist of the film, dictates to you, really. So
the script. Collective Development is the name of the company, the parent company that we, develop all these properties under. And I think that is a good representation that we do all genres, right. At different times. We work with multiple directors and we go where the script dictates. We did 3 biblical adventures out in the desert of Yuma where they shot Return of the Jedi. And 40 nights chasing the star and the Christ Slayer. There, right. We just had Easter. I gave a plug.
There you go.
So, Man's Best Friend was shot right there in Owasso, the courthouse, and all the surrounding areas. I love going to location. Right. I mean, I like a studio when it's safer, and it is sometimes a time management thing. But there is something magical still about going to an actual location, being up in Alpena and looking over that water, with that end of day light in your face is different than staring at an LED screen. Mm-hmm. Always will.
I remember, the movie Semi-Pro. It's a funny comedy, but I think it's along kind of what you guys are talking about. It was based in Flint, and the Flint Tropics was the basketball team. Yeah. And if they didn't shoot that film in Flint, I think a lot of people from Michigan or from Flint would be like, this isn't Flint, that's New York City, or, that's like wherever. The authenticity of the film wouldn't be there if they weren't actually shooting it in Flint, because it would be on a sound studio, or it'd be in a studio, and it'd be like, this doesn't even make sense. It'd be like if they're trying to shoot a film in Central Park, but it's actually on a set in LA with palm trees in the background, But
sometimes you have to movie magic it. I mean, there's going to be, like Tony was saying, we shot some pickup beauty shots around Harsens Island, but Harsens Island has been built up, right. So it doesn't look the same way that it once did. And up in Alpena, they had a 1920s lodge. They had 100-plus-year-old buildings, because every car, plane, boat, building is 100-plus years old in that film, which is kudos to Dane DeFord, our transportation captain, who gathers all these vehicles on these things. And Tony's done that job before.
Vintage, you talk about, I mean, this movie, Harsens Island, all vintage cars from all over the Midwest state for sure, a couple from the Midwest, and a couple of the wooden Chris Craft boats. They had the inboard motors that just fly. It's just, I mean, soup to nuts. It's
That's awesome.
It's good work. We like to say every film that we do is good work in genre, and technically it is usually, but this is the whole package. Even coming off Silent Night in Algona, which was tough to do. It was a 1944 piece, but it just, I'm a stickler for details, and just don't, you try not to make mistakes when you've got many eyes on it. You're hoping that you don't make mistakes, but you
I
do.
know what he's saying too, Tony. It's like when you shoot Detroit Rock City in Toronto. There's times where you could, for us, going to the Holy Lands wasn't feasible, and Yuma, Arizona was a good match for the most part. Occasionally you'd catch a cactus in there that, there's some biologist that's like, that doesn't grow in the Holy Land.
Right.
Because those movies couldn't have been shot, like in Sleeping Bear Dunes and everything like that. But we've been Arizona, California, North Carolina, Virginia, all over Michigan. We've been all over the place.
Last question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, last question for me. So you guys, I mean, you mentioned you worked together for 25 years. Obviously, you have this movie coming out here shortly. Is there one project for maybe our listeners who aren't familiar with your guys' work that you would say, hey, this is our best work? Like, go check this out. Is there one that sticks out to you guys that you've done?
Not for me, because they're, like we've said, we do different genres.
Right.
For me, it goes way back in my career to An Ordinary Killer, which is a play on words about the Don Magyar case. Really sad case, but and then I did it bass backwards too. I wrote the screenplay before I wrote the book, because when the guy got arrested, I told DJ and the other partners, I said, we got to go right now before somebody beats us to this punch. Yeah, because that was the first major cold case that was solved with the help of DNA. It wasn't all DNA, but anyway, to me, and Man's Best Friend for me was, and for DJ too, really emotional. But each one of them are our babies, and you do the best.
You have a favorite child.
They
all have special gifts. They all bring something to the table. They all are a great adventure working with your friends and artists, fellow artists. So, people ask that question a lot. And maybe as an actor, you can say, was there a certain role? But they're all challenging. And, there's something special about all of them.
Well, I know my favorite is An Ordinary Killer, because I got screen credit and my voice was in it for a few seconds.
Nice. You know what? I can see there's a couple scenes in there, search scenes and everything, close-ups, and that was the only film my dad was ever in. He's been gone for 17 years or so. And every once in a while, I'll catch it and see it, look back at it. But I mean, all the movies you do, And we work with a lot of the same people. I mean, we have our core members of the tribe, CDI tribe, but we'll work with the same directors of photography, same grips, gaffers, lighting guys and all that stuff. And that too, you can't minimize how important that is, because once you start a short 21-day shoot or something like that, you've got to click on every cylinder, and you've got to have plan B if the weather's bad or stuff like that. So it's it's an undertaking. So you don't basically get any sleep when you're filming.
Yeah.
And we have been doing this long enough. We're multi-generational, and unfortunately we do have, colleagues, friends, fellow artists that have passed away. People like Dan Haggerty, Grizzly Adams, that was is an ordinary killer. I could go on and on about some friends that have passed away, and that's where these films become special too. Like Tony was saying with his father, you have these moments immortalized in the story.
And families love to see that too,
Sure.
Go back, but
yeah, I think they're almost like visual memory albums, visual photo albums.
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys can watch it, and then you go back to the whole production process, and you have all those memories of shooting and working in the studio and everything that goes into it. So it's pretty cool.
Just and one quick thing about Harsens Island Revenge. It kind of reads like a horror film, and it's not a flat out gangster photo. This has got family interaction into it. There's a love story, and yes, there's some violence, not a great deal, but there's definitely some implied violence and some actual violence. But I mean, it's balanced,
Right.
and it's just, you're not going to come and watch James Cagney. You guys wouldn't have a clue who that is. It was Jared and Matt, but it's not just a shoot 'em up gangster,
Right.
machine guns going and everything. Man, there's some of
the machine guns going, Tony. I don't know.
We do have some machine guns. Yeah.
I think what he's saying is it's not it's not exploitation. It's not just violence for violence. There's a solid story to the whole thing as it moves along. And Carl Wayant, who is the director, did a really great job of bringing kind of sexy, cool look to it. He and I had done several music videos prior, and you see some of that influence in the look of it. It's got a great look.
Yeah, the demographic would be good for this if men can convince their wives or girlfriends to go see the movie, or even when it comes out on streaming.
Women are going to like it though too, without a doubt. That's what I think we're talking about, it being balanced. It's got something for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially it being a historical piece and the Michigan connection. I think it'll draw a lot of eyes to it. Last one for me. Again, we appreciate you guys taking the time doing this. Sure. The creative process that you guys are talking about is really interesting to me. So I'm not sure if you know the background. I work in sports television production at ESPN. Similar job to Jared down there at FanDuel in Detroit. A very different mindset when it comes to creating what we do. When you're talking about your production process, I have a deadline sometimes of 30 seconds. Right. Here's your video. You got to edit this thing. You got to get it cleaned up because this hits after the commercial break. So you've got to edit. You've got to do this. You got to fix the audio because when it comes back from commercial, it's got to run. So, a very different mindset. Sometimes we'll get maybe like a day to edit a certain piece or something like that. And I always laugh when people talk about what they watch on whatever show it is, whatever game, whatever I'm editing for, because sometimes I spend like a day or two editing something that is like a 30-second little tease before a show, or it's a 15-second little clip in a show that I spent 2 days editing. And, people are, it's kind of like, if people understood what went into that little 10, 15-second clip, they'd probably laugh, but I wanted to ask you guys. So I was just, giving some thoughts on that. Sometimes it's interesting to see the difference with TV production and film production. You guys get months and months versus sometimes we get 5 minutes to edit something.
32 years in the newspaper business. I mean, we didn't have deadlines like 30 seconds, but
right.
You live under that constant deadline pressure. It just weighs on you, weighs on your body, your mind, and, I respect that. So do it while you're young, man.
Yeah. I think it's aging me faster than it should be because of that stress and those deadlines. But
when we get done with a film shoot, Matt, it takes several weeks just to import all of the footage and stuff, and to categorize it and all that. I mean, it's insane. That's why DJ and I don't like to get into that part of the business. We let we let the good people and friends that we hire we hire the experts for sure.
Yeah. You let people do what they're the pros in, right?
Yep.
But my question was going to be, so I come from the edit world. I've been an editor in sports television for, going on over 18 years. Wow. You always hear about people, what's left on the edit room floor, how much you shoot. You have to condense it into a 90-minute film or a 2-hour film or whatever. It's similar to what I do. A long game, you've got to cut down into a minute highlight, something like that.
Yeah.
So you were kind of saying you guys don't get involved in that too much. DJ, you must as a producer, but
yeah.
How much do you guys have to step in sometimes and be like, listen, we do have a deadline. This thing has it's hitting the theater here in 2 weeks. You can't spend any more time. We got to make some decisions. Can you just talk about that process? Maybe it's more for me. It's
DJ more than me, but DJ more than me because he's the CEO and a producer, but I'm also a producer. And there are times when you do have to step in, and just push,
Right.
Yeah. Well, but my job is the supervising producer, which is to sometimes be that polite nag on people about deadlines. Mm-hmm. But we always say that we create the best art within our business parameters. Right. So it starts in the hiring process. Don't really hire anybody for a director spot that doesn't understand that it's a business and that we have deadlines.
Yep.
And as long as there's not a business reason to enforce certain things, I try to really allow the director to have that creative freedom. Because as you know, as an editor, you could cut things so many different ways. You can shoot things so many different ways. And that's why you need that one master chef in the kitchen, that makes those decisions. Because, a lot of times you have 6-7 takes of something. And if you hired good actors, they're all good. Right. They're all good takes. There's just, different subtle, variations in the moment. And that's up to the director to weave that together. So we try to give as much freedom to the editors, which they're beholden to the director. And sometimes in this case, the director was the editor. Mm-hmm. So, but if there is business such as timelines, those have to be met. Yep. That's without question.
That's part of business for sure.
Right.
Hey, I got one final question for you fellas before we let you get out of here. You talked about Dan Haggerty, famous name from, I don't know, was it the 80s when he was on television and was in your movie there, An Ordinary Killer. But also you work with some other pretty famous actors like Don Most, famously from Happy Days, Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night Live and other things, and Terrence Knox amongst others. How did you guys get connected up with these Hollywood actors?
It's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's what it is. I mean, you work with somebody and somebody work with this guy or somebody work with that guy. We eventually have to go through agents, but we like the personal touch, man. Mm-hmm. I sent just a blind letter to Terrence Knox's agent in LA. And I said, would you please show this script to, and I was amazed. They were back with us within 2 weeks. And I mean, that's just how that one went. But there's tons of DJ can tell you some stories,
Well, a lot of mine is because, I'm an actor. I was acting before I was producing. And you work with people and you get friendships and they find out what you're doing and the quality of your work. And then they want to be involved. And, that's just kind of how that works. It's a game of who sometimes.
It's a very small, when you get, I know this is trite, but it really is a small community. That's just like any other business or sports or whatever, it's just connections.
Tony and I, we produced the behind the scenes footage for this Miracle at Sage Creek in Benson, Arizona, and acted in this Western. And that was with like David Carradine and Rance Howard, who's Ron Howard's father. And then he ended up working with us on 3-4 movies. And then, everyone in that circle, the Howard family and, Don Most, and everyone's seen his work. So then they become aware of our work. And Don plays an incredible role in this Harsens Island Revenge.
Really
he is
good.
the leader of the Purple Gang family, and people that are used to just seeing his comedic side are going to see a very intense, dramatic side of Don Most.
He's going to see a Jewish Vito Corleone. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Love it.
He's subtly scary, dangerous.
Well, and that's the thing about indie films is sometimes we give them opportunities to, do something different than their bread and butter. Right. Certain people get pigeonholed even in Hollywood of only a certain sort of role, and that's what's coming across their desk. And so when something new comes along, that can be very enticing.
Well, let's get you guys out of here. It's promo time for you. Tell our listeners and our viewers, where to find the newest film and how to check in on you guys.
Go ahead,
T. You want to take it?
Sure. Harsens Island Revenge will be in Alpena, opening in Alpena Friday, the 25th of April, with 3 shows that day. They're all sold out already, but it'll be up there for a week. It'll come down to Wasso NCG on May 17th. It'll open, and then it'll run for several days beyond that. And then it'll spread out. It's called a rollout instead of a premiere across the country, which gives us more latitude as far as, the theaters we get into, but it'll go across Michigan, up and to back and forth across Michigan, Lansing,
Celebration Cinemas to Grand Rapids and Lansing, Imagine into the Detroit area.
Yep.
And then you'll start going across the country.
Yep.
Different states.
Yep. And then the next big thing would be streaming is what, October 1st?
October 1st is when we're looking at it coming out on home video. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
We get on to several platforms. The biggest, of course, is Amazon Prime, but it's also Hulu, Tubi,
Roku, iTunes, Google Play. There's so many now.
It's a new world.
Baffles me.
Yeah, and we're big in the social. So where do our listeners find you there on the social media sites?
We've got pages for all our movies on Facebook.
All you have to do is type the title of the movie. Type the title of the movie in on Facebook. Our website is cdiproductions.com. We also have a website for that, Collective Development Incorporated. So those are
Tribe CDI is our Instagram. We try to expand into some of these, but there's so many to keep up with.
There is. Yeah. Well, hey guys, we really appreciate the time. Fun conversation. We could probably do a pod or two on what you got going on, but we appreciate the time. Look forward to the movie. Definitely we'll be checking that out. I'll check it out at the NCG for sure. And again, we appreciate the time, fellas.
Oh yeah, please do a review.
Guys.
Thank you so much.
Good luck to all you guys.
All right, guys, time for the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. We'll kind of zip through this long program today, but we got some good stuff to get into. Owasso baseball team improved to 7-1 with a walk-off 7-6 win over Ovid Elsie. In softball, Owasso won their own invite, going 3-0. They improved to 9-1 on the season, so doing really well on the diamond. The baseball and softball teams for the Trojans. In track and field, the Corunna boys track team went 2-0 in a Flint Metro League Stars Division double duel at home. Cavaliers beat Brandon and then also beat Goodrich 90-47. Isaac Jacobs won the 100-meter dash and the 200-meter dash. In another track meet, Chesaning boys won their own 14-team invitational last weekend. Zach Harlan won both the 100 and 200 for the Indians. At the Breckenridge Invitational, Logan Smith of Morris won the 100, the 200, and the 300 hurdles. Wasso boys track team swept a Metro League Stars Division double duel at Clio. Excuse me for a second. The Trojans defeated Lake Fenton and Clio. Max Bade won the 200 and the 400 for the Trojans. On the girls' side, Gabrielle Huffnagel won the 200, the 100, and the 300 hurdles for Owasso head coach Noah Jacobs. Notice I got a couple Jacobs names in this segment today.
I
Got a
forgot about that. I remember seeing that posted that he's coaching track over there. That's cool.
Yeah, girls track for a while. So yeah,
I think he'll do a great job.
Absolutely. In girls soccer, Langsberg defeated previously unbeaten Lansing Christian 4-2. Paige Woodworth had a goal and an assist for the Pack. In golf, Owasso beat Clio as Eli Fear and Owen Feldposh each shot 45s. And finally, back to Owasso baseball. They've started a new tradition. We'll see how this goes, but it's kind of neat that they're giving some extra attention to baseball. Before each home game at John Miller Field, a former alum will throw out the first pitch. And Owasso, they've had some pretty darn good baseball teams. I know we broadcast on the radio. They went to the semifinals one year under Coach John Crusoe, but they're going to have some of their better alums, former star players, throw out the first pitch. That's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, it's like I don't know, it's a way to pay back the alumni or whatever, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Bring them back, do a little thing, throw out the first pitch. It doesn't have to be something big, but it's cool to keep the community connected.
Absolutely. Well, that is it in the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency. If you want an estimate on a good deal on any of your insurance needs, check out Gary or Noah or any of the great staff there at Jacobs Insurance.
Well, he's going to be pretty busy with his track. Is he going to be able to do some new insurance claims and stuff? He's going to be out there at the Owasso track all spring. What's he going to do?
He's a busybody, man. He's probably doing it all at the same time at the track in between races, probably doing some quotes. So yeah.
Hopefully he's handing out business cards to the crowd in the stands, right?
Yeah. I did see a Perry baseball swept a doubleheader with Potterville.
Yeah.
So they're actually having a good season. Nephew's still coming back from I told you about he got hit in the nose, but he did have some stolen bases. He had like 4 stolen bases or something in that doubleheader. But yeah,
Brady Burns, right?
Brady Burns. He played well.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on those Ramblers as we go through the rest of the spring season. Well, I think we've had a fun podcast, guys. We want to give special thanks to Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Check out the new Wellness Eats Cafe, a variety of balanced meals made from fresh, wholesome ingredients. Open Monday through Fridays, and make sure to follow the Wellness Center on Facebook for more details. Also want to thank our other partners, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook & Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, the Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan. Special thanks go to our guest filmmakers, Tony Hornus and DJ Perry. Brand new movie coming out, Harsens Island Revenge, premiering a little later this week. Look at your listings for the showing that'll be coming up down the road. That's it. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.